Sweet.
All right. Hey everyone, we are live for the Hot Take Hockey podcast. Lucas, I think we're at episode 27, I believe. Podcast.
Episode 27,
Lucas, I think we're
buddy.
at episode 27, I believe. Podcast. But honestly,
we made it.
Yeah, we've made it. We're buzzing still. But the Hot Take Hockey podcast, episode 27. We've got a live reaction here on the live stream. And I look at this as, Lucas, I think I just said it before, is like, it would have been better had it been announced right in the evening. We got to pick our battles here, right? But we got a big trade here prior to the podcast so we could actually record the podcast live, as I said, and talk about Jake McCabe and Sam Lafferty traded to the Toronto Maple Leafs. We'll talk about the trades that happened over the weekend, the Timo Meier trade, and quite a few. But Lucas, man, as people are rolling into the live chat, we're live on YouTube, Hot Take Hockey. I haven't gotten your thoughts yet. I think that's the best way we could have done it here. So I'll just quickly say to chat, I had my raw reaction, posted the video, and for me, my initial thoughts was like, when you look at Jake McCabe and you look at Sam Lafferty over their careers and what they've done so far, whether it's Jake McCabe, no playoff experience, Sam Lafferty, he's really only established himself as a true NHLer in the last couple of years here at 27. So for me, on paper, when I was looking at it, I was like, wow, a first, a second, that's a lot after you already gave up the haul for Ryan O'Reilly. But as you look more into it, knowing Jake McCabe has team control and they retained 50%, Sam Lafferty team control into next year, it makes me think a little bit and it gets me a little bit excited. But Lucas, I want your thoughts for the chat here because I haven't heard your thoughts and you did say we're going to disagree on something. So I'm excited to hear.
Yeah. We'll roll out with just the trade first. I mean, first of all, let's just start with the action that's happened the last few days. Yeah. I mean, this is awesome to see all the trades going down and all the action around the league. I think the only downside that we have, Johnny, is, Friday's the deadline. Is there going to be any deals left, right? That's the concern right now. But strictly talking about this trade by the Leafs today, the Leafs and Blackhawks today, I think it's a dub for both sides. I really do. I think it's a win for both sides. Yeah. The Leafs, obviously heavily rumored in getting Jake McCabe for weeks and weeks now. And so Kyle Dubas pulls the trigger and gets this guy. I like him a lot. I don't love him at $4 million. So I love him at the $2 million with the retained cap. I love that. Great move. And you got to pay, obviously, that first-round pick to do that. So you live with that. And I think that this is the replacement that, fans were calling for Jake Muzzin, right? I mean, it's not apples to apples, but this is a guy that's going to do a lot of the things Muzzin was doing prior to his injury, right? Yeah. Just the shutdown type defenseman. So overall, my initial thoughts are it's a dub for the Leafs. Lafferty's a nice little add in there as well. I think him and Achari are just, you don't want to play against those guys in the playoffs, and the Leafs haven't had enough of that all throughout their playoff runs, if you call them that. They're one rounds. They haven't had enough of that in the past, so I love that they have now Achari and Lafferty. But moving forward, there's got to be another move made, right, John? Like, we're in cap limbo right now where they're okay because Murray's on IR, but when Murray comes back, this doesn't necessarily fit under the cap. So they're going to have to make a corresponding move unless there's an injury. But overall, I'd say dub so far, man. Like, it's a dub, and Chicago gets the picks they need to continue this rebuild, this complete teardown that they're going for. So good for them as well, right?
Yeah, and you know what? I also want to say this, even past, like, whether people want to say WL or evaluate the trade itself, Dubas, unlike other years, I mean, I think more so this year, he's been playing a lot of mind games. Like, this guy, like, I relate it to a lot of other GMs, but, like, I would say the biggest one was, at least in my recent memories, when Mark Bergevin said, yeah, we're not trading PK Subban, and then 2 days later they traded PK Subban. That's like to the extreme level. But Dubas has done a lot of that, like a lot of those mind games. Like, he goes, yeah, we're not going to trade our top draft picks for rentals. And then literally the next week over, he trades draft picks for rentals. And then for this one, he goes, yeah, we might make an addition on the back end. And, like, again, he goes on to talk about the draft picks and, like, trying to keep the capital. And the only thing that Dubas has stayed consistent on is, like, he hasn't wanted to trade prospects that are already in the system. So he's kept his word on that. But every time he kind of has that conversation, and then now even more so is, like, in the press conference just earlier, guys, if you missed it, he goes, yeah, I think so he used a Lou Lamoriello quote, and he goes, yeah, time's on our side here, and yeah, we have a couple games prior to the deadline. But I mean, man, teams look at that situation. It's like, you're definitely going to if there's no injury here in the next week, and you never want to wish an injury for the team, you're going to have to attach a draft pick to Kerfoot 100%. Right?
Yeah. To move him, to move the body. Yeah, absolutely. I think he referenced Rasmus Sandin's injury last year when it comes to that. And so, if an injury happens, this is all, this all ends up working out. But if not, you're right, John. As the deadline looms over, buddy, they're going to eventually have to add a sweetener to take either a Kerfoot, an Engvall, a Justin Hall, if you think that's the move. But yeah, I mean, let's talk about that for a second. Let's talk about the top 60 now and the way you think they should line up. We'll talk about how I think they should line up and just maybe what we actually think Keefe's going to do. So if you have all these guys, I mean, let's say 8, including Timmins as well, right?
9 if you include Jordy Ben, but he's
there. You go. Yeah. Jordy Ben, I'd say, is your number 9 right now. So let's go off the 8, including Timmins as well in there. What I saw your tweet and I saw the 2 options you gave. You had the same 6 guys in there, John. What's your thought process on those 6 guys? Why would you pick those 6 and why in those pairs? You can even speak to that.
Yeah, I think. Well, here's the thing. I think Hull's only in there if for some reason you're struggling with taking penalties. Like if the Leafs are lacking discipline and you're just prioritizing the penalty kill, then Hull's in there and you really have, like, in my opinion, like stud top 4 penalty kill options in Brody, Giordano, McCabe, and Hull. So that's the scenario. But to me, when you're putting your best foot forward and putting your best 6 defensemen forward and what can do you well in the playoffs. And I was listening to Overdrive a little bit. I like the fact that they talk about there's so many of these playoff teams and successful playoff teams. You rely so heavily on that top 4 that at the end of the day, your bottom pair is really only playing 8, 9, 10 minutes. And that's why it bothered me so much in the past playoff series is like Hull's on the bottom pair, sure, but he's still finding 13, 14, 15 minutes a night. And that just shouldn't be the case. So where I see it as, and I think, you said you saw it. If you have that top 4, and I feel like they haven't tested it enough. Brody and Giordano played a lot together in Calgary. And in terms of a shutdown pair, if Riley and McCabe can find a fit together because McCabe is like everything that Riley isn't, then that could be a pair. You put Brody and Giordano against the tough minutes if Giordano can handle it at his age. And then you give Sandy and Liljegren easy matchups and let them do their thing for third pair minutes. So that was my scenario, have Riley and McCabe, Giordano, Brody, Liljegren, Sandin. But again, in terms of comfortability, it might just end up defaulting to Giordano with Liljegren, what we've seen lately. Riley stays with Brody, and then maybe Sandin and McCabe. But I truly think it makes me nervous with Dubas and Keefe. I could also see a scenario where Hull's in there and Sandin just doesn't find the ice time. Okay,
but my pushback on that and having the third pair being, not getting the minutes, not getting the large minutes, and giving them easier minutes is I just don't see in the Atlantic Division there being really easy minutes. Like when I see Nick Paul and obviously the Lightning have added Tanner Jeannot and Ross Colton, like that ain't an easy line that I am necessarily comfortable with having Sandin and Liljegren against. Now, I love Liljegren and I love how he's grown. I mean, he's proven me wrong. I didn't think that he was going to be at this level this early in his career. Like I thought it was still a long ways away until he was going to get going like this. But Rasmus Sandin, I'm not very comfortable with at this point. And I know last year he didn't really play in the playoffs, and then the previous year he looked very pedestrian, I would say, versus Montreal. Mm-hmm. So for me, I actually have Hall in my top 6, and that might be a spicy take. But
I don't think it's that spicy. But yeah, keep going.
Yeah, I think Keefe is going to do that, but that's not necessarily why I have him in there. I have him in there because, like you said, man, like I think penalty killing wise, like. He is in your top 4 in terms of your top 4 defensemen.
Options, for PK.
On the PK, I think he's one of those 4 guys. And I just trust him. This is crazy, but I trust him late in games with the puck on his stick to exit the zone over Sandin. Like Sandin to me really, really scares me, especially going back to get the puck from behind the net and just retrievals. Like I don't trust when Tanner Jeannot's coming in and is going to smoke Sandin. I know like Hall's going to get smoked too, but I just trust Hall to move it quicker and not throw it up the middle like I've seen Sandin do. Or
see, but then Lucas, I'm going to push back on you because how many times have we seen Hall freaking panic? And I mean, I go back to the Tampa series last year, man. Like the first freaking shift against Tampa in what was it? It was game 4 or game 3. Yeah. Like I just feel like there's a difference of argument here. I see what you're saying,
Yeah.
Sandin probably succumbs more to the pressure, but I wouldn't necessarily say Hall's a better decision maker in any sense. I mean, I think Sandin, what you're saying is correct in the fact that if you have Nick Paul, Tanner Jeannot, and Ross Colton on a forecheck on Sandin, I mean, sure, I guess, but yeah, I don't know, man. I
trust Hall to make the more like safe play more than I do Sandin. Sandin, there's higher reward. I totally get that. But I've just seen Sandin try to do a little too much in high pressure situations. And he has the skill, but it hasn't really translated in those high pressure situations. I don't like the idea of having Sandin and Liljegren as a third pair, especially.
Then your third pair, I mean, in your scenario, bro, third pair has to be Giordano Hall then. You have to keep Giordano with Hall. Because outside of Giordano, I don't think there's anyone that really, I don't know, keeps it safe with Hall. Like Riley with Hall, disaster. Like the only other guy is Brody, but I think you should utilize Brody heavier than with just Hall, like especially if it's like a third pair. So, I mean, do we meet in the middle and say we're okay with like, what, a Riley, Brody, McCabe, Liljegren, then Giordano Hall? Is that where your mind's at, or who do you have with Riley?
Yeah, I like that. I like that 6. When I was playing around with the pairs, John, like I just find now that they've made this McCabe trade, there is a lot of room to just try some things out here down the stretch, kind of like what they're doing with O'Reilly and putting him in different spots. I think you could have McCabe with Riley. I think you can have Brody with Riley. I think you can have McCabe with Liljegren or McCabe with. Like, I just think there's so much room to experiment to see how this fit works. I'm not actually married to Riley and Brody like I have been in years past.
Yeah.
So I could see McCabe getting a shot up there. But when you eventually have like your top 4 all being lefties, I guess, you can't really have Liljegren and Hall on the bottom pair, right? So that's where it gets interesting. But this is just some the things we try to go back and forth on as Leaf fans and overanalyze the 6th defenseman, but I do think, you know, it does make a difference in those tight games. And so as of right now, I'm more comfortable with Justin Hall in the lineup as opposed to Sandin. But I guess we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, it's all about matchup game. I did want to give a shout out to Jennifer for the 5. Yeah, thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate it. Yeah, just kicking off the stream with the defense talk because I did post my reaction. Lucas kind of talked about his. So Lucas, you're comfortable. Like, I'll throw out a scenario. So the Leafs lose in the first round, but they made this trade, and McCabe and Lafferty is like in the lineup, obviously, for next year. You've got McCabe 2 additional years of $2 million. That's where I talk to fans where I go, okay, well, it's not the rental trade. It's not the O'Reilly and Achari. So those 2 guys could be not a Leaf by next year. Is this... Yep. In the scenario where the Leafs lose in the first round, this trade individually, ignore the O'Reilly trade, this trade individually, value-wise, that's the only way I go, okay, I mean, if it works in the playoffs. If not, is it worth giving up the first and second for these guys to continue on?
It's a good point. And I thought about this too. For the most part, I agree with Dubas. I would rather trade the mystery box, as he put it, than the prospect that especially with some of the prospects the Leafs do have. I feel pretty good about at this point. But a first round pick is a big price to pay for a guy who, let's just call a spade a spade. He's never played in any playoff game.
He hasn't played in a playoff game, and he's had injury concerns in the past.
High pressure games.
Yeah, sorry, you cut out there for a sec. And he's had injury concerns in the past.
Yes, exactly. So first round pick for that is definitely a tough price. And it's going to be judged, I think, a lot off this year because at the end of the day, even though these guys are coming back next year, if they fall in the first round, Dubas probably isn't here. At least that's my feeling on it.
Yeah.
Whether that's deserved or not, but it's a big price to pay. But if you see these deals that are happening, like this past
the Tanner Jeannot is the
Tanner Jeannot.
Okay, but I think the difference. Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just to say, I think the difference is, and that's why I get frustrated with some Leaf fans and saying, well, I'll just go back on what your point is. That, yeah, deserving or not, I think Dubas has put his foot forward here on multiple occasions now. Like, the Leafs just got to do it on the ice. But to what you're saying, yeah, I mean, looking at the scenario of giving up 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, a third, and I talked about it in the video, if you don't get past the first round, like we're talking about the first round here, folks. Tampa Bay fans are complaining about giving up that much for Tanner Jeannot. And I agree. I mean, it's a lot. It's freaking a lot. But it's worked for Tampa basically every single time. I mean, last year they made it to the Cup Finals. Sure, they didn't win it, but the Nick Paul edition worked clearly against Toronto. The Brandon Hagel worked. The freaking Barclay Goodrow, Blake Coleman, go down the list. So no one cares if you're giving up first and seconds if you win, and especially if you win the Cup. So that's my point on this. Lucas, we've talked about it. I'm pessimistic. I'm freaking pessimistic. And that's why if you watched my raw reaction video from today, it was so split. It was me being half excited, half going, it's a first and second round pick. Let's not forget, folks, because at the end of the day, sure, this is Leafs going all in, and I agree with it, but Leafs don't get past the first round, don't have playoff success this year. What are we looking at? Just a 2024 first round pick? And then the Leafs are lacking on draft picks quite a bit. Then you're truly, if you're going for it next year, you're truly emptying the prospect pool to make other trades. I mean, it's just a domino effect, right? If you don't have success, you keep trading from these draft capitals and prospect pools, then I mean,
eventually you run out. You run out, and you got to figure out where are we going to have assets to trade out. And like you said, John, the picks are getting so slim that they really have. I mean, if you look at 23, they got a third, a fifth, and a sixth. You look at 24, they still have their first rounder. I mean, that one ain't going to be still around, I'd imagine. Maybe not this year, but by next year's deadline, that one will be used.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Lucas, I don't think they have a second for like 4 years or something.
They don't have a second in 23, 24, 25.
And then they just trade the 2026 second in this.
And they just trade. Correct. So
that is nuts, bro. I mean, again, we could talk about it all. These second round picks are freaking for the Leafs. Those are truly mystery boxes, those second round picks. But again, Nick Robertson is a bad example here because he's obviously just the injury issues. But Dubas has plucked Nick Robertson, Matt Nyes, and Topi Niemelä in the third round. So these aren't, they're mystery boxes, but they aren't peanuts, Lucas. Those are the three. Nick Robertson not anymore, but Matt Nyes and Topi Niemelä, those are two of the three best Leaf prospects in the system right now. Absolutely.
And you're right, John. Like, they are mystery boxes, but these are assets that like teams covet. So they do, you can trade them for value. And so the Leafs are emptying the cupboard. Overall, when you really think about it, you strip it away. Like, when the Leafs traded for Jake Muzzin, there was no doubt in my mind that was a big piece you were bringing in, and that guy was going to have a big impact on the defense. Do I feel that way about Jake McCabe? Not the same level.
It's not close. It's not close in terms of the experience.
No, and I don't want to just chalk it up to, well, Jake Muzzin won the Cup. I don't even think it's just that. I think it's just the body of work, just what he's done on good teams. Jake McCabe, all respects to him, but we really don't know, how this guy's going to perform in pressure situations and how the Leafs are going to utilize him yet. I don't think they should be just throwing him in with Riley immediately. I think they should probably, start him on the third pair and work him in. But also, John, like, offensively, you can't really be looking at this guy as an offensive presence either. He's really just, it's not a sexy pickup. He's a good, hardworking defenseman, gets in the lanes, plays PK. And that's a lot to give up for these picks. Yeah. But I want to shout out Jeremiah also in the comments right now. He's asking about Nick Jensen. And that's a good transition because I really liked Nick Jensen as a guy the Leafs could pick up.
See, that would be a direct Hall replacement and an upgrade for sure. Yeah. The right shot, he can be on the PK. He's much more of a puck carrier than Hall, much more. So Nick Jensen, that would be a good fit. I know Edmonton, we'll get into it, guys, because we want to talk about Lucas, as we translate or transition out of here, you'll bring up the trades. But there was a lot over the weekend, guys. But over defensemen, Edmonton's next up, guys. They've been rumored to be talking to Edmondson, Ekholm, Nashville, Jensen, Washington. So Edmonton's in those talks right now. But Jensen would have been a good fit. I don't necessarily think... Well, actually, I want to bring this up, Lucas, just quickly. Back to the conversation of attaching a pick to get rid of like a Kerfoot contract. Your way of avoiding a trade like that just being a cap dump is making it a bigger trade. So like actually kind of forming it as like you're acquiring an asset and then just those players are matching up the salary. In that sense, you're giving up the draft capital, but you're also getting a piece back that gives you an upgrade. I don't know if you saw it. I suggested on Twitter. Connor Garland in Vancouver, similar to how Toronto has connected for Jake McCabe for the longest time, the Leafs wanted Connor Garland when he was initially getting traded from Arizona. They've been rumored to talk to Vancouver in the past. And there's a heavy rumor, Frank Saravelli put it on Twitter, that there's smoke around Kerfoot going to Vancouver. So my hypothetical hot take was like, get Vancouver to retain $1 million off that $4.9 million cap hit. Garland in, Hull and maybe not Hull if you're keeping him in, but maybe Engvall and Kerfoot. I don't know how it would work, but my point is maybe that's the direction Dubas makes instead of just attaching a 3rd round pick to get rid of Kerfoot. But that could end up being what happens.
Yeah. I'm not crazy about Connor Garland, like with the contract though. Yeah. For me personally.
No, the contract's risky. I would say you'd have to retain or get Vancouver to retain. 4.9 is not worth. It'd have to be under 4 in my eyes. For sure. Yeah, and also it's weird, this whole Kerfoot, this smoke that's being thrown on Kerfoot to Vancouver, John. Like we talked about it on a previous pod. Like Kerfoot has no contract after this season, so it's curious to me that Vancouver would have interest in a pending UFA unless they really thought he was a good I think it's just the
team.
incentive. They want the incentive, and honestly, Kerfoot's a BC guy, so maybe they see it as like he hasn't been the most like productive, so they could maybe get him under $3 million. Maybe that's how they're looking at it.
Yeah. I mean, it keeps the door open on maybe Shen coming somehow, some way.
Well, that's only again. I know you're saying you're saying the comfort level of having Hall for the PK. That would be truly a PK move. Just get Luke Shen on the 3rd pair. That'd be clearly a comfort move on that end. But yeah, I think the Leafs are probably done.
I think they're pretty much done, man.
I think they're done on defense. I think they might make one forward move with a forward going out, and that might be Kerfoot, as I said.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what comes back in that or what they're giving up. Like that Kerfoot trade could just be, I have no idea how it's going to look. I mean, and for me too, like we talked about it last week, I just see more promise in having Engvall and more, more of a fit having Engvall in your playoff lineup than Kerfoot at this point. I really just don't see where Kerfoot really thrives unless, and you take it, you take what I've been preaching here and you have O'Reilly as the 3C. I really do think O'Reilly's going to end up as the 3C. Just because I'm not too thrilled with the Kampf, Yarncrow, Engvall line. Like from an offensive perspective, John, isn't going to do much for me. So I think when we get to playoffs and they're matching up against Tampa, they're going to have to respond to Nick Paul, Tanner Jeannot, and Ross Colton.
Well, that's why it bothers me, right? Because Kampf scored a couple big goals last year, but why do fans not look at, like, to me, what is the obvious? Like, Blake Coleman, Barclay Goodrow in their run scoring big goals. Or it's like, Pat Maroon scoring big goal for St. Louis. Or like, I just go on we've talked about the HBK line for Pittsburgh so many times. Nick Paul literally put 2 goals on Toronto's head in Game 7. And somehow we can't look at what's just on the surface and be like, third line sometimes make the difference in a freaking series. And I've seen it too many times with Tampa. And no, sorry, folks, I'm not getting freaking amped up over Kerfoot and Engvall being the potential third liners that are going to match up in the playoffs against Tampa and Boston. Lucas, I know I've said it a million times. Pierre Engvall needs to be sent to a freaking body checking retreat and taught how to hit at least once per period. And there's no freaking room for error on that. Because if this guy, bro, if he doesn't start breathing on people in the playoffs, I'm going to lose my mind. He's 6'5". I'm going to say it a million times. He's 6'5". There's no excuses.
So John, you know the shinny game we played last week?
Yeah.
Johnny and I were in a shinny game, and I saw Engvall last night versus Seattle. Sorry, this is being recorded on Monday, obviously, if you're listening to it later on. And Engvall versus Seattle, the way he went for a hit behind the net was the most sorry-ass, like, shinny style. Like, you're going up against, like, I'm going to hit you. Like, I'm not going to nail you hard. You know, I'm just going to give you a little tap. That was Engvall last night, buddy. Like, it was just... Yeah. You're right, man. He's got to go to a hitting training camp. It's brutal. Like, oh,
it's so bad. I mean, the side, like, that's what I'm saying, man. Like, if that's your main third line, like, that's why David Kampf is so underappreciated. Like, that guy, that sometimes his offense goes stale, but he's aggressive. He's heavy on the forecheck, and like even the goal. Like Achari's goal, like his first goal as a Leaf. Like, that's all David Kampf. That's just freaking Kampf being all over the puck. He's just all over that puck. So to me, Kampf, if he ends up being on the third line, I'm not gonna complain about it. I think O'Reilly would be the better matchup game, but Kampf's not the problem on that third line, and I want to make that clear. Yarncrow can be supporting on that third line, but then it's like, are you really putting pressure on Matt Nyes to, like, have that load on that third line? Like, I just feel like there's got to be balance. The only scenario where Nyes comes in and be effective is if he has a good contributor with him, and that's O'Reilly, as you said. And then maybe the third line for the Leafs can be structured around a Nyes O'Reilly pair. But
overall, like, so we can end the Leafs segment and move on to some of the other big trades. The Leafs have, come on, man, this has got to be the best, or like, it's got to be the best, right? Roster that they've had going into a first round. Like, is this the most confident you felt? I know we've probably said this so many other times, and people could probably snip me saying this other years. And I really like the team they had, obviously, with Matthews, Tavares, and Kadri for the one season they had that. But this has got to be right up there with that, right?
Yeah, I think, the Kadri point is good. I always think back to the 2019, and I would have to look at the Leafs roster, but like that was like 2019 was like, obviously Tavares signed, and then the Leafs were finally moving into more of a defensive mindset. I think 2019 really was the turnaround. Like after the first Boston series, they're like, all right, we can't be doing this anymore because the Washington series was a joke defensively. And in the Boston series, I mean, we can go over it. If not for Freddie Anderson. Like obviously
I think 2019 and this year's team are the best teams on paper that the Leafs have had going into a first round. And you know what? And overall, like, I am still, and you should be, worried about their chances against Tampa. But overall, Tampa has the worst defense that they've had in their run here, their last 5-6 years. If you look at the Lightning blue line, man, it's to be had. Like, the Leafs can beat these guys.
People forget how effective and how huge McDonough was on those runs.
Yeah, huge. McDonough's not there anymore.
Huge.
Chernak's not there anymore.
No,
right?
Chernak's there.
Chernak's out right now.
Oh, he's out. Okay.
But Jan Ruda's not there anymore. Sorry, I get those two guys mixed up. Jan Ruda's not there anymore. Like, their right side is pretty pedestrian, man.
Well,
like,
so the right side, I'm trying to think right now. Chat, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but so it's when
Bogosian?
they're healthy, Perbix is in there, but he's been like scratch or bottom pair. But it's usually been Chernak if he's healthy, Bogosian if he's healthy, obviously, and then who would be the third guy?
There's Hayden Fleury.
Ian Cole's in there. So Ian Cole's a block shotting machine, and like that's a huge piece they have in terms of playoff style. But you know what? I would agree with you. I think the Leafs defense got up to par, or like maybe slightly better if you look overall. I think obviously the Lightning have Hedman and Sergachev, but Sergachev's also like he has a lot of mistakes. Like, that guy is like high risk, high reward. He'll have a game where it's like, damn, Sergachev is one of the best second pair guys in the league, and then you'll see him next game, he's like a giveaway machine. It's like high risk, high reward. So hopefully the Leafs catch him on one of those rough nights. But yeah, you know what? I agree with you. I think the Lightning forward group combined with the Vasilevsky potential is still extremely scary. So, I mean, Leaf fans, be excited, but there's a reason why I'm always pessimistic. I think the only year I truly was like a dummy, but I can't even say I was a dummy compared to everyone else, is I thought Toronto would win against Montreal. And I don't even think that's unfair to say. I think everyone expected that. Tavares went down, obviously. But I had the Leafs winning at 7 that year. Outside of that, Lucas, I've been my pessimistic self, and I'll probably stick to that. But we'll see. I want to be excited, though.
We'll see when we get there. I'm feeling pretty confident right now. I'm not going to lie. I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah. We can pause the recording here. I'll rip through some questions. I'll get Lucas back in here, and then we'll record our Timo Meier. We'll go through the other trades, Lucas.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's do that. All right, chat. Ask questions. We'll answer. And we will. I don't know why this is out. I guess I'll just end the meeting. Huge. All right, Lucas, I'll get you back in here.
All right, sweet. All right.
Recording stopped.
All right, chat. We'll get Lucas back in here. I don't know. I guess you guys can't see me right now. Let's see. Let's get this camera on. There we go. Okay, over here. All right, chat. So if you guys want any questions, get her going. I don't know. I feel excited about this trade, as I've said. I think my initial reactions changed because it was pretty raw, and I think just overall, I look at the Leafs' playoff history here, and it definitely doesn't show well. I think a lot of us pessimistic Leaf fans still have our reservations and just our mindsets on things, but we do have a lot of people in here, so I hope you hit that subscribe button. I really appreciate the new subscribers, guys. We have some big guests coming on the Hot Take Hockey podcast, but we thought we would do a live one here. But just to answer a few questions, I know, Chris gave a good slash. Thank you to Rick, Jeremiah, Beantown. Appreciate you guys. Thoughts on the Canucks getting Crafts off? Yeah, Amrit, go check out my trade video. I made a bunch of trade videos over the weekend. I think it's a dub for the Canucks. There's not much risk there. We're going to bring Lucas back in here, though. But, Lucas will come in here. Lucas has the list for the trades that have gone down. And, we can go over it. So, if you guys want to follow Lucas on Twitter, his @ is NHL Lucas on Twitter. And mine, just my name if you want. Or you can follow the Hot Take Hockey Twitter as well. So we're bringing Lucas back in here.
Let's go.
Let's see here. Hit that record button.
Recording in progress.
All right, so Lucas, you're back. Let's turn this camera off. So you got the trades pulled up, or you don't, but we can get that going. I'll look at chat. But chat, if you have any questions, Timo Meier trade happened. So that's obviously the big one. I think we'll go over that. But there's a lot of conversations happening around the league of trades that are going to come. But there was also a lot of, I think, minor deals. But I think our, I don't know if I want to say friends, Lucas, but I think our friends in blue and red made a low risk, potential high reward trade, potentially. So we'll talk about that. And classic Nikolai in the chat telling us we got to purchase Zoom Premium. So maybe that's, hey, you know what? Hey, chat, more success on the podcast means more funds towards the pod budget, you know? So if the pod keeps being successful, then get some more guests. Maybe we can contribute to some good old Zoom Premium. Thank you, Jeremiah, for keeping up with the trades. JT Miller, that was kind of shut down today. Just quickly to kind of put, I would say, water on that smoke. But JT Miller doesn't seem like it's going to happen. Erik Karlsson doesn't seem like it's going to happen. So that kind of sucks. We'll still see the Patrick Kane trade, but Lucas, just let's go over the trades that happened over the weekend, and then let's discuss maybe what we think could still happen leading into the live stream on Friday. So let's go over what happened.
Let's do it. Let's start with Timo Meier, because that was the big fish right there.
Yeah.
So Timo Meier gets dealt. It's a freaking whopper of a deal, man. Like, so much was involved with this. Like, as far as just the context going into it, I feel like this trade took like 3 hours to make, like to start spilling on Twitter. It was just piece by piece was coming out. But overall, like, the Devils get Timo Meier as it was rumored for a while that they were in on him. I love the fit on the Devils, man. Anyone who knows me knows I'm a huge Jack Hughes guy. Yeah. So this is going to be an unreal get for them. And it really counters, it's a counterpunch to the Rangers and to the Islanders for the Horvat and Tarasenko trades. So I really respect it from New Jersey's perspective, because they've kind of been, what would you say, irrelevant the last handful of years, man? And now they're here. Like, they've arrived. Their new era is here. And they finally got a goaltender that can get, over 900 save percentage. So I think they got to go for it. And they got to at least give their fans some hope by pushing the Rangers in that first round. It looks like all signs are pointing to it being those two teams as of now. But I was happy, for the trade from the Devils' perspective. Getting Timo Meier, I'm not too familiar with a lot of the other pieces that they got. It looked just like a lot of contracts in and out, Johnny. Like,
you know what? I think the review I kind of got from people, and I'm familiar with Shakir. Well, more specifically because when he got drafted, I don't think you can ignore a last name when it's Mukhamadullin. But I think Shakir's a good piece they got. I think he could be like middle of the pack defenseman, so second to third pair. But outside of that, to me, it was a lot of quantity over quality. But it just comes down to your scouting department. We could be talking about a whole different trade in 5-10 years when San Jose got 2 gems for those 2 first-round picks, right? So at the end of the day, this trade, we can go on and on. It's more so evaluating what New Jersey got versus what San Jose got, because San Jose is a lot more like, it's going to be a hot minute.
But did you think this package was going to be, more quality than what the Sharks ended up getting? Like, it does seem a little underwhelming for me. Now, mind you, I'm not too familiar with each prospect on that list there. But as far as just the 2 firsts, especially for what we saw with more trades we'll talk about, but we've been seeing firsts be thrown around like candy thus far. And so for it to only be 2 firsts, That did surprise me for Timo Meier, the best player, in my opinion, that was on the market.
Yeah. My prediction actually prior to the trade, my final prediction, it was, so when it was, the rumors were floating early in the morning and we had no info. So this was just my kind of just educated guess was I thought the package was going to be a first round pick 2023. I said Alexander Holtz. I said Fabian Zetterlund and Andreas Janssen. So I always figured Janssen was going to be in there for the contract going back. That made sense. I thought Fabian Zetterlund would be in there because he fits exactly what San Jose was wanting as like an additional piece in there. And Zetterlund's been scratched at times. He's only 23, so that was the fit. I just thought San Jose was going to get a legit prospect. I saw Nemec rumors, and I'm like, hey, New Jersey just drafted him, like top
that's
6.
crazy.
I was like, that's not happening. Holtz, the only reason I thought Holtz was just because I was like, okay, I'm looking at the wingers, and especially if you're bringing in Timo Meier, like Holtz will have a tough time cracking that top 9, especially with the guys they have under contract. Like they just signed Andre Palat long-term. They have Sharon Govich. Obviously, they have Timo Meier now. So like, Jesper Bratt. So I just thought, okay, you know what? Holtz will be the value. But I think the fact that they got 2 first-round picks here and then Shakir's in there as well, so they got like a forward defense combo of prospects. To me, I think the quality lacks a bit. But again, it goes back to the first-round picks. If you nail those first-round picks, then it's a different discussion.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I think Holtz should have been in there.
Yeah, I saw Dawson Mercer, floating around in there. Like,
that was,
and that would.
That's
crazy.
another one on the wing. Yeah. That Mercer, he's been buzzing. He was on a
he's buzzing right now, man.
6-game goal streak.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So the Devils did really well here for adding him. I can't believe that the Devils are really like pushing all their chips in already. Like I couldn't have seen this at the start of the year. Like I remember thinking they might be pushing and grinding for the playoffs, but I didn't think they'd be putting their chips in for like the best player on the market. It's cool to see again.
Yeah.
But yeah, good for New Jersey.
Well,
what trade do you want to do next?
Well, just before we transition, I was just going to say, we're talking about the Leafs third line. It's like, I mean, New Jersey's got so many options. Like, so if you attach, like, I don't think you want to touch the Mercer line just because I'm calling it the Mercer line over the Hischier line. That's how you know Mercer's hot right now. But Mercer, Hischier, Tatar have been playing well together. Obviously, Mercer's been benefiting from that. So if Hughes is with Bratt and Meier together, are you freaking kidding me? Lucas, that's immediately, if Hischier, on the depth chart the other day, he was listed as the first line, which, I mean, is crazy to me, but Hughes, Bratt, and Meier is disgusting. And then you could have a third line of Palat, Holla, and Sharon Govich. That's a pretty decent third line. That's not bad. So when we talk about depth, I mean, the Rangers and Devils, if that's the matchup, as you said, that's going to be a crazy matchup. I would say, Lucas, that's more of a conversation of New Jersey catching Carolina, a lot more than Toronto catching Boston. So while New Jersey and Rangers are favored right now as the potential first-round series, I mean, New Jersey could still catch Carolina. They're only, 3-4 points back? So, I mean, that's if I'm New Jersey, I'm focusing on getting that top spot, avoiding let the Rangers and Hurricanes beat up on each other. And New Jersey hope for, I mean, again, you don't want to criticize any matchup, but I think if New Jersey got like a Detroit or got, I mean, I think even New Jersey would be confident with Pittsburgh. The way Pittsburgh's goaltending's been suspect and their depth has kind of been questionable. So, I mean, we'll see.
It's crazy how fast it changed for them, man.
Yeah.
Unreal.
All right, next trade. Which one do you want to go to?
Let's do Tanner Jeannot.
Wow. I mean, again, guys, this is going to be, we'll have a conversation in June about it. If Tampa's hoisting Lord Stanley, no one will care. But on the surface, if this was any other team, if this was Toronto making this trade, I mean, Toronto would never make this trade. That's the thing, right? Like, Toronto made the jump on the O'Reilly trade, and that's as risky as they would go. Tanner Jeannot got 5 draft picks, including a first, it was a first, second, third, fourth, fifth. You might as well just count down. So
it's basically a draft class, bro.
Yeah.
It's like it's almost an entire draft class for Tanner Jeannot.
Yeah.
Like, and listen, I have respect for Tanner Jeannot. Like, I've been preaching about him. I wanted the Leafs to look at this guy, not for this price, but you know, he scored just under 25 goals last year. He was like,
crazy.
He's like a crazy good forechecker, man. This guy hits everything in sight. I really like the player, but that's an insane price. Like, it screams desperate, man. It screams like we have to make a move to counter what the Leafs are doing. It screams that to me.
Well, yeah, so that's why I said, I was like, well, if Tampa is going to make their one move, and now I still think they're going to make another move, because to me, I thought Tampa would do maybe their business in one deal. Like, that's why I suggested, like, call Vancouver, acquire Curtis Lazar and Luke Shen, and Tampa's done for business. I think that would have been a lot cheaper, but clearly they see the value in Tanner Jeannot and team control. Like, this is similar to Brandon Hagel in a way. If Tanner Jeannot doesn't like completely flip the switch and then score like 10, 15 goals the rest of the way and have a crazy playoff, like say he scores 1 or 2 goals in the playoffs, scores a couple goals here the rest of the season, like they can get Tanner Jeannot maybe on a bridge deal for a couple million, right? And that fits their cap. So that's what they're betting on. But I also think they're not going to cry about it if Tanner Jeannot is a lot more successful in the playoffs. Then they'll figure that out when the time comes. So for them, they see the team control as well. He's going to be an RFA, but
I think he's going to fit really well there, man. Like
Tampa type player, man. A Tampa type player.
He's perfect for Tampa. I think he's going to exceed, like do so well there. I really do. But their defense is still pretty questionable, so there must be another move coming. I think, like we were talking about on that right side. I think
Luke Shen fits well. Yeah,
Luke Shen is the guy they need to go get. It just has to be that way, unfortunately.
Well, man, they only have 3rd and 4th round picks left, so trade a 3rd and like a young piece for Luke Shen and done deal.
Yeah.
That's what it's probably going to be. I mean, we could be wrong, but I would also look at. I mean, Nick Jensen's probably a possibility for Tampa too. I would look at that. He doesn't have too much of a high cap hit, so that's possible. Past that, I would just continue to keep an eye on Gavrikov, because once upon a time, Tampa was willing to trade a 1st-round pick for David Savard, and that was with Columbus. So not to say that they're going to sauce in their 1st-round pick for a D-man, but because they don't have. When's their next 1st-round pick? Does Tampa not have a 1st-round pick till 2026?
I think I'm pretty sure that's what it is. I don't have it pulled up right in front of me, but
I think that's what it is. I think it's 3 years without a 1st-round pick right now. So, I mean, they would have to really go into the future. I mean, Dubas is already touching the future. It's just sauced a 2nd round pick in 2026. So, I mean, these Eastern Conference teams, man, like, I don't know who put it out on Twitter, but I think there's a good argument to be had that the top 6 teams in the NHL all exist in the Eastern Conference, points aside.
They do.
Like,
they do.
But I'm just saying points aside, though. Like, points aside, I think if you put 3 of these Eastern Conference teams in the East, 3 of these Eastern Conference teams in the West, there's a good chance that 4 of those 6 teams will end up in a Final Four tournament. But yeah, I think the Eastern Conference is a different animal right now. If you're in the Pacific Division, you should be, if anything, man, the logic I think is a little bit backwards. All these Eastern teams, especially the Atlantic, are like battling against each other with these trades. It's like, I mean, if you're in the Pacific Division, you should be taking advantage of that. You should be going for, especially if you're like an Edmonton or a Vegas, frig, man, you should be taking a big swing.
It's wide open, man. Yeah, it's wide open. It's wide open. Well, let's
go into the Vegas Blues trade. Let's do that.
Yeah, let's do that one. Let's do that one. So Barbashev gets dealt.
Yeah, so Barbashev, man, your guy, he's starting. I don't know if you saw, he's starting tonight on a line with Jack Eichel and Jonathan Marchessault. What a way to start your Vegas career.
Wow.
There you go, eh?
Dude, that's like the same level Riley got on the first night. Yeah, here's Tavares and Marner.
Yeah.
Like going from down bad Blues right now
to go play with Jack Eichel and Johnny Marchessault. Not bad.
Barbashev,
I think that's such a W trade, to be honest, for Vegas. That's exactly that. If they go add another top 6 guy with this Mark Stone flexibility here, Vegas is laughing when it comes to playoff time. They're laughing.
Oh yeah, man. It's a really good deal for Vegas. I love, because I swear we were talking about Barbashev like he was going to go for, almost what Tanner, like what Tanner Jeannot just went for, right? but yeah, I mean, overall the Blues get a good player though too back, right? They get
Zach Dean. Zach Dean's a good prospect for sure. Don't get me wrong. Zach Dean is a good prospect, but the fact that Vegas's mindset, Lucas, is so backwards on these other teams like Toronto, like Tampa. Vegas clearly does, like, the draft capital and all these conversations, like, they have been so used to saucing away their young players. Like, I mean, Suzuki and there's so many other names, but Zach Dean is just another example of that. World Juniors, playing really well in the queue. Former 1st-round pick. He was at the end of the 1st-round pick. So, I mean, to me, I like the player. I like the fit with Zach Dean in St. Louis. I think he's a Craig Berube type player, middle 6 guy, 2-way guy, but Barbashev will be a great fit with Vegas. Great fit.
Great fit. I love it. I love it. It's a good deal. And St. Louis is making a lot of pitches to their players on the way out, telling them, hey, if you want to come back, we'll talk in July, right?
Yeah, so we've talked about that. That's definitely the case for O'Reilly.
And Barbashev.
Yeah, and Barbashev. All right, let's talk. Habs fans are waiting, buddy. Gurianov, is he going to return to form in Montreal?
Okay, we're going to go there first. Okay, we'll go there first, but I know Bruins fans are waiting too for Orlov. But
Oh,
But
yeah,
sure.
I guess, man, it's been a minute, eh?
Yeah,
Jeez.
right. Dude, there's been so many trades.
Yeah, we gotta quickly go over that.
Okay, which one do you want to do first?
Let's do Habs. Let's do Habs.
Okay, so the Habs traded
Shout out to
Dadonov. Yeah. They trade Dadonov for Gurianov. And Dadonov was 50% retained, right? That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you think about that one?
Yeah,
I actually didn't see a reaction on it. So.
Yeah, so I recorded a video. Basically, this is how it comes down to for me. Is like Kent Hughes. We're talking about mind games. Kent Hughes basically made it a thing. It's like Montreal's confident in their prospect pool. They're confident in like their ability to scout. So draft picks, all that. They really just. They're not. I don't know if expecting much, but like past Joel Edmondson, and they might get a second round pick for him because of the injury stuff. They're not going to make a lot of these big moves. Like Monahan's injury issues right now are a thing. And I mean, Armia's like contract, like there's not too many options for Montreal to trade. So Dadonov for me was never going to get more than like, I think a 4th round pick's generous. Like maybe a team would have given a 3rd round pick for the 50% retained, but I think a 4th round pick's generous, especially with his production this year. So the fact that Montreal is like, hey, we're going to freaking throw a dart, see where it lands, and bring in Gurianov, who, hey, had like 17, I think it was 17 points in 20 something playoff games on their finals run against Tampa in 2020. Like, not bad for a guy that's still like 25 years old. Montreal's throwing a dart for a guy that was Dadonov is likely going to leave anyways in the offseason. I mean, frig, man, I don't mind that at all for Montreal. I think Habs fans should be extremely happy with that.
It's a big dub for Montreal. No doubt it's a big dub. I mean, this guy way back when went 12th overall, which is crazy to think about. But yeah, I remember him in the bubble, man, being like really dangerous for Dallas.
Yeah.
And you were trading a guy that really didn't have much of a fit or value for Montreal anyways. So Montreal, these are the type of smart moves that teams that are waiting in the weeds, they're not really contending this year, like in any season. Like these are the moves they got to make to get ahead slowly, incrementally, right? Because getting a guy like Gurianov for basically nothing, I mean, he could either be, just kind of meh and no harm, no foul, or he ends up being a contributor and it's a huge dub. Like there is no downside here for Montreal.
Oh, truly no downside. I think the thing that people forget, Lucas, sometimes is like, I'll go back to the Monahan trade. So Montreal getting a 1st from Calgary. They're actually, I mean, if Monahan has stayed healthy here and played how he was playing earlier in the year, Montreal, in turn, could then be flipping Monahan with 50% retained for another asset. And that's exactly what I see with Gurianov. If he doesn't like work out in terms of Montreal's long-term fit, because Montreal has a lot of those kind of in-between players right now. I mean, Gurianov, pending RFA, if he doesn't work out to the fullest this year, Montreal can go, hey, Dennis, we can give you a 2-year bridge deal to your 27 with a good opportunity to sign. We'll sign you for, I don't know, $2 million, $3 million per. And at that point, I would imagine Gurianov will find better success than... Like, there's no going down, I think, at this point for Gurianov. The role he was playing with Dallas, they were sticking him on the 4th line, Lucas, for a lot of games. So it's like, that's not the player Gurianov can be. I think at any point, Montreal's going to win here, whether they get a player that's going to fit in their top 6 long-term, or he'll turn it around to some extent, and Montreal will get a better asset for it. And as we just talked about, if they were only going to get like a 4th round pick for Dadonov, and Gurianov turns it around a little bit, they'll get at least like a 3rd. Like either way, to me, there's no risk to this for Montreal at all. No, no risk.
It's a dub. It's a dub for Montreal, no doubt. And for Dallas, it's like it's a little bit underwhelming so far for them. I know we wanted to talk about them a little bit more as we get closer to the deadline. Like Dallas has been pretty legit all year. With the West being wide open, they've been right there all year. Yeah. And so, there was rumors circulating about Kane at one point, and that doesn't seem like that's going to go through. No. Like Dallas is going to have to make some, bigger move for me to really believe in them and buy into them. And they got a good team, man. Like they just got to make one big, home run. Like go for it, man. The West is wide open.
Yeah.
Like,
well, Lucas, I'll just say this. I know we always relate it back to the Leafs. I mean, more so me, but I'll just say this to you, Lucas. Imagine the Leafs in frickin' late February lost to the Blue Jackets and Blackhawks back-to-back, the frickin' uproar or the disaster. I mean, the Leafs had those games where they've lost to Chicago, lost to Montreal individually, but Dallas just lost back-to-back nights against Columbus and Chicago. They just beat Vegas, ironically, so that was all right. But you're right, man. Dallas has got to be one of those teams where it's like you're looking at it now, especially with Sagan Ben there and like Ben's had a really good season. Like, this is one of those other years where it's like, okay, you got to figure it out now. Pavelski towards the end of his career, like, now is now. Like, I don't see a scenario where Dallas can look, okay, you know what? We've got all these prospects. We've got Stankoven. We got Wyatt Johnson, all this stuff. I mean, great, but, and I've said Dallas has a lot of them stockpiled, but I think you have the goalie, you have the top 4 defense, you have offense. They should be swinging, man. We just talked about the Western Conference. That's the team. Vegas, Dallas, Edmonton. Those 3 teams should be swinging. Colorado, they don't need to swing. I mean, they're going to do a Tampa type deal, most likely. They're going to trade for a second line center, give a second or first round pick, and that's it. Those 3 teams that I said, Edmonton, Vegas, Dallas, should be freaking swinging in that Western Conference.
Agreed, man.
All right. What was next? We got another
Let's do Orlov. Let's do Orlov.
Boston,
The
Boston.
The Bruins fans are waiting.
Caps fans, Bruins fans in the chat. We got a trade live on the podcast.
What happened?
The Buffalo Sabres have acquired Riley Stillman, so minor, but from the Canucks for prospect Josh Bloom. So Riley Stillman,
Johnny.
Minor, but hey, the Sabres have been wanting some edge, man.
All right, well, you know what?
We got to report live on the pod. Come on.
Sabres. Respect it, but you can't get me all hyped like that, eh? Like on Friday, I don't want to hear. On Friday, I'm gonna pull your leg a few times, then and go, "Oh, it's a big one," and it's gonna be a minor deal. But nonetheless, good trade for Buffalo. They get some little depth there, get a little tougher.
But Sabres make a deal. So anyway, sorry, talking about Capitals Bruins trade.
Yeah, let's do Boston. So the Capitals, as a whole, it's sad. I mean, what happened with Ovi's father passing, Ovi going away from the team, they were already starting to spiral, and on the ice they have completely spiraled. I mean, Washington looks like they ain't making it, right? Like, might as well sell some assets off. Mm-hmm. So they trade Orlov to Boston, and I texted you, and my initial reaction was, this is quite the price. I mean, Washington took a dub here in my mind. Okay, Boston had to make a move. I get it. Toronto's going for it. Tampa hadn't made their Jeannot move yet, but they knew Tampa was going to make a move, and the pressure was getting to them, and they make this move. Garnet Hathaway is a Boston Bruin. He's a Boston Bruin, man. That guy fits. Perfect for them, right?
Well, that's what I was saying. I mean, Hathaway to Boston or Tampa was just the vibe, and it ended up being Boston.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, now we got all these pricks in the Atlantic Division. We got Hathaway. We got Achari. We got Tanner Jeannot. Like, all these guys, man. It's going to be a battle.
Corey Perry. Keep going.
Corey Perry. Yeah, Brandon Hagel. The Lightning got a bunch of pricks, man. We don't need to go there. But Boston, adding Orlov, it's interesting to me. Like, I've never been a huge fan of Orlov, personally. Like, I wouldn't trust him to shut it down when it matters most. I know he's got some good metrics, and he's got some good advanced statistics there, but it seemed like a high price for me, man. A first, a second, a third. I know Craig Smith just makes the money work, but it's a lot, and especially for 2 rentals.
Okay, well, that's why I warm up to the McCabe trade specifically today, because obviously there's term there and there's team control. So that's where I go, you know what? Dubas fell into a trap a little bit. Not a trap. I shouldn't say trap. He made the best out of his situation, but it's just like, it's what the market's provided, man. I mean, that's a freaking joke. Like, I think the message is correct for the Bruins. The additions are right for the Bruins. That's exactly what they needed. They needed a guy to fill out their top 6 in terms of experience. Hey, once upon a time, Orlov was the number 2 guy on the defense core for Washington when they won the cup. So the fact that Orlov is your 5th guy on that core, I mean, that's not bad for a core that has the likely Vezina winner, that has, in my opinion, 2 top 20 defensemen right now in McAvoy and Lindholm, the way they've been playing. And, I mean, that 4 group's stacked. That 4 group's absolutely stacked. So
here's my question to you now. Now that we have the McCabe trade came through and we can compare them a little bit, do you like, if you could swap one for the other, you'd rather the Leafs have Orlov?
Ooh, that's tough.
Like for experience, I mean, you hit it on the head. For experience, for what he's accomplished, all that, Orlov washes McCabe. I'm not trying to make that comparable. Yeah. I'm just trying to say, like, for the fit, for a bottom pair guy for the Leafs, I like McCabe more. Like,
are you asking for this playoff run? I mean, the answer for me might be the same. I have to think about it for a sec. The answer might be the same, but are you asking for this playoff run? Who I would rather have in the defense core, or the trades itself?
Yeah, let's go this playoff run because the trades itself, I think the Leafs took a double over Boston because they retain these assets into next year, right? And beyond. They got McCabe for 2 more years.
Yeah.
But let's just go going into this year's playoffs. Would you rather have Orlov or Jake McCabe?
This is my answer. If I had Keefe and Dubas in front of me right now, I go Keefe, Dubas. But boys, give me your word. Do you have Hall in the lineup or not? If they say Hall's in the lineup, I'm taking Orlov. If they say Hall's out of the lineup, I'm taking McCabe. Simple as that.
That makes sense. That makes sense because of the defensive responsibility, like the different way they use Justin Hall.
Yeah. So if Hall's in, I'm taking Orlov in that top 4. If McCabe's in, then Sandin brings that puck moving that Orlov would bring, right? You're not sorry folks, you're not getting puck moving from Jake McCabe. Simple breakouts, sure. Maybe a trickle more of offense than Justin Hall. I mean, hey, Hall made a great slap pass. I don't know if it was accidental or not against Seattle, but we'll give him the creds because it got done. But yeah, I mean, that's probably the vibe.
And I do want to make it clear too. You had a really good point there, the way you broke it down. Like Orlov is no doubt the more coveted asset. If you're just looking at this year and his experience in the playoffs before, he's won the Stanley Cup. I get it. He's played higher in the lineup on better teams. Totally get it. I'm just saying for the fit, chat. That's why I'm leaning towards McCabe for the Leafs. Just for what they need, because you got to realize Orlov ain't playing offensively in big spots for the Leafs when they have Morgan Rielly in front of them. Just want to point that out. I mean, even in Boston, like he's not going to get the looks that he had in Washington when he's got McAvoy in front of him, right? So it'll be interesting.
Well, I mean, frig, man, it's a likely, like the outcome is likely here that Orlov won't even see power play time in Boston. I mean, the fact that McAvoy, Grzelcyk, Lindholm are there, I mean, there's a good chance he won't see power play time at all. But that's what I'm saying. I mean, what Jeremiah just said, I think that's where it's like Boston's bringing in Orlov. Like, it's a freaking... We should all be laughing the fact that Boston has Orlov as a bottom pair defenseman. Like, that is unreal. That is freaking unreal. So the fact is, I think we also need to start considering that, like, some teams just, like, it's not even about value. It's about, like, looking at a team and the desperation and looking at the team in the position. Washington, like, they were still, and to be honest, still today are in the race kind of for the playoffs, right? So it's like, for them, they really need to get pushed to make these trades indifferent than a team like Chicago. Washington's like, you know what? We could chill. We could chill and just like see if we make the playoffs and then figure out the Orlov contract in the offseason. But they're like, you know what, Boston, if you really push the envelope here and you overpay, we'll make the trade happen. Same thing with Tampa, Nashville, man. That's why this Chicago thing's different for me, because I think Chicago is just in this whole different direction. The only thing I would say on devil's advocate on what I'm talking about is they have terms, so Chicago could have kept them too. But for a team like Nashville, I mean, Tanner Jeannot was in the Calder conversation last year and in team control. Yep. They were not being pressured to trade Tanner Jeannot. It would have had to be a crazy offer the way it was for it to be done, and that's what happened. So, was there any other trades? Did we miss anything? I've kind of been just kind of tracking along. To me, Lucas, because of how busy trade deadline is, sometimes I got to, like, I don't know, just leave other trades in the back, like rear view mirror kind of thing, because there's so many trades right now happening and so many rumors happening right now.
There's only really 2 other ones that are kind of notable without it just being minor league players and future considerations and such like that. Like I did like the ad for Winnipeg to get Nino Niederreiter. I did like that ad for a 2nd round pick. I don't think it's a high price to pay for a team that's looked pretty legit this year and is gonna, like we said, the West is open. The Jets could go get it done, man. Like,
good deal for Winnipeg.
I love Niederreiter adding to that forward mix that they got. So good deal for the Jets there. Not really much to expand on. Other than that one, I thought there was one more. Oh, just Jack Johnson going back to Colorado.
Yeah.
After winning the cup there. I thought that was
Johnson brothers reunited.
That's buddy. Yeah, man. So that's a nice one. But other than that, more minor deals. And dude, as we get closer to the deadline, like, just please, can we have a few trades on Friday? Well,
at the very least, can we reach out to the chat right now, Lucas? Because worst case, if it flops, which I don't think it will, I actually think there's still going to be a decent amount of trades. We got to have the chat pulling through so we can just shoot the shit about hockey. Like, in general, worst case, hey, all of you guys got to be on the trade deadline live stream this Friday, because worst case, we'll shoot the shit.
If there's no trades,
we'll make some early playoff brackets, or we'll just shoot the shit on playoffs. We'll talk. But Yeah, I think we can revert to some comments here and talk about what potential trades might happen throughout the week. But Lucas, I'll just ask you quickly. With some of these big names I shouldn't say off the board, but Greer saying unlikely Karlsson, JT Miller potentially unlikely, where I like what Jeremiah said, and I talked about it recently, is that JT Miller has the no movement or the no trade clause kick in, and obviously the contract July 1st. I wonder if JT Miller potentially becomes a draft day trade. That's a hot take, but I mean, the window's small there, but if they wanted to trade JT Miller, it would have to be before that July 1st.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a good point. I could see it. I could see it just to continue to shake up that core.
Sorry, yeah. So my question was, with those big names out of the equation, potentially, what's the big name that you want to see get traded that you think's possible?
Well, let's just say Patty Kane is going to get traded. I know that's the obvious one.
The easy assumption.
I'm almost certain he's going to get traded, right? At this point, we know the way it's moving towards New York, and it'd be shocking if it was elsewhere at this point. The big one for me that people maybe aren't talking about that actually has a good chance of being traded that a lot of teams are circling on, according to Elliot, was James Van Riemsdyk. I would like to see if JVR gets moved. Now, Elliot did report the Jets were in on him, and with adding Nino Ryder, that might nip that in the butt. But JVR getting dealt would be pretty cool. Just because he's been a big playoff contributor in the past. Like for the Leafs, I mean, when they were in those first rounds, I felt like he was always doing some damage. And he's a sick forward to add to a team that's got already talent around him. I think he's a really good power play guy in front of the net. So I'd like to see JVR get moved. And also I'm a fan of his when he played for the Leafs, so that's a bit of my bias creeping in. Outside of him, where's the ghost going to go? Is Shane Gothisbehere going to get moved? Because all these defensive guys have been going to new addresses now, and it seems like teams they don't really have space for any more D, like the big dogs.
Yeah, it's interesting because the rumors for Edmonton, for example, were kind of tying them to Gothisbehere, but now I'm seeing Edmonton, I'm seeing Ekholm. So I wonder Gothisbehere when he's healthy, obviously, I think he can be a top power play guy on some teams, but obviously for a playoff team, and I'm looking at a team like Edmonton, he's probably going to be at most a second power play guy in a third pair. So there's probably a few teams out there that could use a guy like that. Edmonton being one of them. I wonder, this was what I'll say. I wonder if Ottawa, not to say that they're going to push for a playoff spot here, but I wonder if Ottawa sneaks in on one of these defensemen late that maybe not necessarily living up to the market value and just goes, all right, we'll bring him in, hopefully re-sign him next year. I think the only other defenseman, past Gavrikov, because I think Gavrikov will still definitely get traded. I would be shocked if he doesn't. And then obviously there's the Chychrun, because Lucas, I'm so tired of talking about Chychrun. I feel like every podcast that I talk about him, I just get frustrated because it's like, bro, this should not still be a conversation. There's just no way. The only other defenseman that I'm really intrigued about, because they're in a weird kind of spot, is Matt Dumba. Because we know that right shot defensemen sometimes are rare, and all these teams that are looking for, I feel like, offensive defensemen or that extra kind of boost is we're talking about a lot of left shot guys. So I wonder. Dumba rumors have been popping up, but also Dante Fabro rumors have been popping up. Maybe another potential target for Ottawa. So I think the defense market's really weird right now. And I think that's why the Leafs went for McCabe here with the team control, because there's a stupid amount of defense rental options out there. Maybe why Edmonton's really intrigued with an Ekholm that has some term left, but at a decent, there's a high cap hit there also. I don't know.
Yeah. I feel like I have never noticed this many defensemen just being available, man. It just seems like the list doesn't end. You got Carson Soucy, you got Ekholm's been called out in the comments. There's just so many guys. Where's Klingberg gonna go?
Bro, I just made a video on that. Yeah, you know what? Yeah. Klingberg's another one where it's there was a lot of talk about Klingberg for Ottawa or Carolina. I think that could be one of those two teams. But also Schmaltz was thrown out there by Elliot Friedman. You know what? I kind of find it funny because I think Schmaltz would be, talk about guys that are versatile, that would be a perfect option for Toronto.
I would love Nick Schmaltz.
5.8 mil. You know what? Chad, it's actually kind of funny. They could make that money work, but again, they'd have to send all three of the trio we talk about often. They'd have to ship all three of those guys to Arizona to make that work. But the name that and he just got injured. He's week to week right now, so it would have to be a weird combo. But Adam Henrique, I still think that guy's got a playoff resume, man. If you're a team looking for a middle six guy, Adam Henrique should be on your list if you can make it work. There was another name. Oh, I mean, hey, when I saw the Chicago trade, I was waiting for Domi to be included, eh? I mean, bring Domi on.
Well, we actually talked about it on a pod about having Domi and McCabe come to Toronto, right?
Yeah, and then it ended up being McCabe and Lafferty, which, again, is fine. I mean, Lafferty is just the team control. So, no, there was a couple other guys I wanted to bring up. No, JVR is the good point because I think he'll definitely get dealt. Oh, Kevin Hayes. Jeremiah brought that up. You know what? Yeah. There was rumors popping up that Philly would be willing to retain a couple mil off Kevin Hayes. If that contract drops to around 4 or 5 mil, I mean, Lucas, he's on, I don't think he's quite a point per game, but he's been lighting it up a little bit on a bad, obviously not the greatest Flyers team. So,
yeah. Kevin Hayes is a legit player, man. He's a legit producer. I didn't like the deal when they signed that. Obviously, that's pretty penny, but retained, I mean, that looks a lot more appealing for sure.
Yeah, David Pagnotta's been wild and all over the place, but he just said that that Besser and Shen talks have been heavy, not so much Garland, so maybe put a little bit of...
Luke Shen talks have been going on for so long, yeah. John, and I'm so over it because the price is a third-round pick from all sources that we're hearing.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know what the price is. How can talks just keep, like, how is there still room for, these negotiations? Like Vancouver, I thought, had drew their line in the sand and said, it's a third-round pick for Shen, or else we just keep him. We might as well just keep him and have him around because he's a positive impact on the guys. But, yeah, I get pressed about the Shen stuff, man. I just want to see him moved already, bro. Like,
yeah. No, I know. I'm with you. Hopefully not to Tampa.
It's going to be Tampa.
Yeah. Lucas, anything else? I don't know. I guess you got maybe dinner. Did you want to stay on or you got to hop off?
No, I'll run it for a little bit more. We can run it more.
All right, let's make a new meeting and then let's go for some comments here.
All right, sweet.
All right.
Record.
All right, chat. Sorry, guys. We went into the other trades, but now actually let's answer some questions in the chat here. Let's answer some questions because I actually want to get to some of your guys' opinions. So please, if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. It's free. I really appreciate it. Hit the like button. Drop some comments. Drop some questions. Kevin Hayes to Colorado. Yeah, Brandon. I think let's propose that together to Lucas here because I think in terms of Colorado's cap situation, they'd have to be flexible with that. But there's a couple options where I still think Colorado is going to be lurking. Yeah, Jack. Yeah, Lafferty and McCabe. They wanted Lafferty and McCabe. Eh? All right, let's bring Lucas in here. Or back in here, I should say. All right. Let's see. Do I think the Devils can target anyone else after getting Timo Meier? Yeah, I would say the Devils could still go for maybe... Well, they do kind of have an insurance goalie. I feel like the depth... They'll probably get a depth piece, a veteran. I'm trying to think of a good example. Like, they're not going to go for another big move. I'll shut it down in that sense. They're not going to go for another big move. I'd be shocked if they do. But if I'm going through, like, veterans for potentially, like, a New Jersey, like, it'd be like a Nick Bustad or... trying to think of another good example. I mean, I'll throw out this name, but I don't know if New Jersey really sees a fit. But actually, let's bring Lucas in here first. But in terms of veteran, I mean, if they wanted to bring a Luke Shen, then that could be a possibility. But yeah, let's bring Lucas in here and. Wow, Jeremiah with the 50 says, hey, for beverages for you and Lucas on the trade deadline day, I'm Team HTH.
Let's
Jeremiah supplying the drinks on deadline day. Wow. Let's freaking go. Guys, let's get some major Jeremiah hype in the chat. Yeah, you know what? After deadline day, Lucas and I maybe I'll have to get a couple bevies for Lucas. Especially if we have a good deadline day. But let's get some Jeremiah W's in the chat. That is unreal. What's up, Blended?
Johnny,
Thank you
we
for
might
the
have to
50.
link and figure out what we're doing on Friday. Eh?
Yeah. We'll
Who knows? Who knows?
Now I'm gonna be home, so
We might be rocking and rolling, getting some bevies after.
Let's here we go. Beauty. So Lucas, I guess well, I know you're a Blues guy, and I've seen a couple of comments in here. Well,
I just always chuckle at that. I gotta say, because if anyone's in here right now, it gives me the piss for being a Blues guy.
There's no piss. I'm saying you're a Blues guy.
No, they're my second team. I dabble.
Okay. Anyways, my point on saying this is you've seen Colorado up close and personal quite a few times, a couple times. Do you think Colorado? Do you think they have a mindset because Tampa it's so obvious they're doing it, but Colorado's been kind of sneaky quiet here. Like they haven't. I mean, that's what this Jack Johnson trade. Are you expecting a second line center trade still? Because I feel like that those conversations have been kind of thrown out of the wind a little bit with all these other rumors.
I mean, Johnny, that's Dennis Mulligan, isn't it?
Yeah.
Listen, I thought they were gonna go. I thought O'Reilly was really rumored for them as well. Like they were checking in on him, and it would have been just cool to see him go back to his old team. But yeah, they got to address that if they really are serious about it. Because I don't see Colorado's still that dangerous, fast team that could go up against anybody. But that's a huge hole in their lineup without having Kadri there. It's been like that the whole year. They've just sort of, gone along and chugged along.
Recording in progress.
But they're gonna have to. I think they're gonna have to address that, man. I don't really know who that piece is at this point. That's really a good fit for that, though.
Yeah, I mean, for the Avs, it's I think they were actually looking at Monahan. I mean, I know someone in the chat threw out the Kevin Hayes thing, but it's like, guys, it's all going to be a salary cap thing. I feel like when it comes to a team like Colorado, they have to basically evaluate, all right, can we have a filler spot here? Is a Rodriguez or Newhook going to be okay for one of those lines? Or is that just not going to move the needle? And to me, it's probably not going to move the needle. That's why I suggested Adam Henrique for Colorado. But again, there's the cap going back. Anaheim potentially having to retain on that.
I like Henrique. I like that Henrique shout, John. I like that a lot better than the other names that are out there. Like I'm thinking on top of my head, like Lars Eller, Nick Bukestad. Like a lot of these guys, they're not going to do it. They're just not going to do it. I think Henrique is probably the sexiest name right now. Yeah, that second line.
Well,
right?
I will say, I mean, in terms of playoff success, and someone also just threw this name in there, Nick Bonino. You just said Lars Eller. We're talking about guys that have scored some big goals in the playoffs, Lucas. Like Lars Eller, the go-ahead in Game 5 versus Vegas. Nick Bonino in the playoff runs with Pittsburgh. There's some good pieces out there still. So, yeah, what you said, man, I think Henrique's the sexier pick and probably the more beneficial pick all around. But
I mean, he's scored a big goal too, buddy.
Yeah, he scored a huge goal. He scored a huge goal. But yeah, I mean, if you're talking about cap hit, Bonino's only $2 million pending UFA, easy to retain 50% on that. And you also look at Lars Eller, the Caps have already retained on Orlov, and if they don't retain on something else. But yeah, you're right. I think Henrique would be a nice option, but I look at guys like Bonino and Lars Eller, if they start kind of sniffing the market a little bit heavier here as we get closer to Friday, and I think that's what people are underestimating here, guys. Sure, the deadline might be quiet in terms of a Timo Meier, or in terms of, the Patrick Kane might get extended till then, but we're still going to get a lot of trades like that. Like Nick Bonino, Lars Eller, those are not nothing names. I'm sorry, maybe they're depth at this point in their careers, but I still think we'll see a lot of trades like that on Friday. And to me, is that really much worse than any other trade deadline we've seen? Like the NHL trade deadline,
2 years.
Yeah, everyone complains that it lacks. I mean, if anything, we've gotten the big deals. It's just not on deadline day. So,
buddy, I will say for McKinnon as well, as far as McKinnon goes for the Avalanche, the Avalanche don't have a ton of cap space right now, but it gets even more, tough next year when his big deal starts.
Yeah.
I was almost thinking, is this one of those years for the Avalanche? It just happens sometimes where, it's just not the year. Makar keeps getting hurt. The goaltending hasn't been great. Do you just kind of sort of recalibrate next year? You don't you don't push the chips in. But I think you still got to push the chips in, man. With McKinnon being on that 6.3 for the last year, I think they got to make a big move. They can't just play passive here because they're going to let Edmonton pass them and Vegas pass them and Dallas to an extent get ahead of them. Colorado can push any of those teams, no doubt, and beat any of those teams.
100%.
But if they want to push themselves over the top, they're going to have to make a move.
Yeah, so that's where it just comes to. It depends on what move they make. Brandon with the 2, thank you so much, says JT Compher 2C, and then the Avalanche can get Bonino at the 3C. And then Jeremiah just said Eller. That's his prediction. So, yeah, Lucas, honestly, I think that's what might happen in the end. If Colorado really hates the market and they can't make it work money-wise, depending on like Makar and all those other things, they might just... I don't know if it's subtle because, again, you're going for guys with playoff success, but Bonito or Eller for a third-line center spot is not... I think you could do a lot worse than that. So if they can keep JT Compher as the second-line center and be okay with that, then I guess that's a potential route. Noah just says, thoughts on the Jets at the deadline in terms of are they done after Nino? I mean, we discussed it briefly. Lucas, I just truly think the Jets, in terms of figuring out this Dubois situation long-term for them, I don't see them making a big move. I think they made their move with Niederreiter here. The only thing is, like, maybe do they want a goalie upgrade over Riddick after Hellebuck? But
yeah, I could see that, but I also could see defense help, no?
Maybe an upgrade, but again, it's like they have such a... Similar to Toronto, Lucas, they have like 8 or 9 NHL caliber defense.
Yeah.
So they have... I would agree with you, they could upgrade, but they definitely have a logjam. So, I mean... I'll pull up their lineup from the other night, but like guys that have been in and out of the lineup, like Hinola, obviously freaking Logan Stanley, who decides he wants to put on a show every once in a while against Toronto, or just point to the crowd for some good banter.
But they got John. They have to. I think they have to make another move because, like you said with Dubois, like it's almost the greatest kept secret, if you will, that Dubois is gonna go. When the time comes, Dubois is going to leave Winnipeg, and when you have a guy like that here, you know he's a difference maker. He's a really, really good, tough, in-your-face centerman. I think they have to make a move while they have him, Scheifele, this whole core going. Yeah,
I think. Well, I'll say this: I think Winnipeg could maybe add one defenseman if Nate Schmidt stays. Yeah, like that. They really don't have any flexibility on in and out outside. So they have obviously the Morrissey, DeMello, Dillon, Pionk. That's your top 4. Maybe you could slide Dillon down, or maybe you could slide DeMello down if you're going for a big upgrade. I don't necessarily think they're going to do that. But, like, yeah, freaking Dylan Sandberg, Logan Stanley, as I said, Ville Hanola, Kyle Capobianco, former Sudbury Wolf. But outside of that, like...
Nate Schmidt. Yeah, they got tons of D there.
They have so many. Yeah, they have
Brendan Dillon.
Many. So, I don't know. I think Winnipeg, they might go for a slight upgrade. But Ehlers, Dubois, Niederreiter, Connor, Scheifele, Wheeler... Lowry, Perfetti when he comes back, Menelainen, Sam Gagner in your 4th line. You know what? Maybe Winnipeg makes an addition on their 4th line. Winnipeg might be a candidate for like a Nick Bonino type as well. Outside of that,
Winnipeg is also one of those markets too. It's important to note that like I have a handful of contacts there in Winnipeg, like through work, through friendships, whatever.
Yeah.
That it's really important for them. Like if they're sniffing around playoffs, it's really important for them to get into the playoffs. Like them making the playoffs, man, is similar to Leaf fans just because of the lack of success the Leafs have had. That first round is so big for them. Like a lot of teams, the first round, you expect to get there. You expect this. Winnipeg, if they get in the playoffs, man, the amount of home games they have is huge. Even if it's 3, even if it's 4, like. I'm not calling it's not a loser's mentality. It's just every round that they go is like a massive deal for a smaller market like that in terms of the population. So they're close. They're hovering right now. I actually forgot that they've spiraled a little bit in the standings. And when they're right around the playoff line, like they got to push themselves in. They can't afford to miss the playoffs after the start they had too.
If they somehow miss, that will be one of the bigger disasters of this season, because I truly think there's other teams out there like a Washington. I truly think there's been a conversation all year that there was potential of Washington missing the playoffs. Like I don't think Washington ever came into this year and their fan base and been like, yeah, we're a lock in that Metro. That wasn't the case. I don't think that was ever the case for a team like the Islanders. Like there's a lot of these like kind of outskirt teams that I'm bringing up that I don't think they were ever locked in. Winnipeg, I mean, I think it's kind of the opposite. I don't know what they expected for this year. And then all of a sudden, oh my God, they're a contender in the West. So if they fall off now after all these conversations, it's going to be a disaster, because at least if they fell off at the start of the year, then they can make roster adjustments and decision making. But Lucas, man, they've got on that mindset where they're going, like they're trying to go for it in a way, try to see what they can do. If they somehow miss the playoffs, especially in a year that like there was so much controversy back in the offseason, it would be the worst case scenario if the Jets finished like 9th or 10th in the conference. Like worst case scenario.
Oh, that would be terrible. Yeah, that would be awful. They got to get in.
Yeah. Calgary's another conversation. Well, just quickly, do you think Calgary, I mean, we've talked about almost every other Canadian team. Do you think Calgary's going to do something or just because they're middle of the pack, could they maybe stand pat?
Man, they weren't built to be out of the playoffs. Like they weren't built to miss here.
Yeah.
And you know what, Calgary, like the way that team is structured, they're going to give a team a fit, at least in my mind, if they get in. Like, even if they get in and they go out in the first round, they bow to Vegas or Dallas or whoever it is, because Calgary, by all likelihood, is probably going to be a wild card team.
Yeah.
If they even get in, I think they have to make a deal to push them in because, man, like this is such a failure. This is a colossal failure if they miss the playoffs. Like this is one of the bigger failures in the league if Calgary misses. In my mind, like I swear everyone had them as a lock.
Well, I think why Lucas it'd be. I think this conversation is so debatable because Calgary would have been screwed from the get-go, but Trey Living did like whatever you want to call it, his magic. And then obviously they're back in the playoff conversation because without that move, if they just lost Tkachuk and Gaudreau for like nothing, they're not. I mean, they did lose Gaudreau for nothing, but if they just lost Tkachuk for nothing, they would not be in a playoff conversation at all. I mean,
but then they would have had the mindset and the direction and the understanding that they were going to be near the bottom of the league.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. So it just depends on how you look at it. If you look at it in terms of a misdirection where they're just hanging on to the middle of the pack, I mean, as Leaf fans, we watched that for quite a few years, finishing 9th, 10th, 11th. I just said that about Winnipeg. That's the worst spot you want to be in, and Calgary's in that spot right now. Basically, essentially.
My hot take is they're going to get in. That's my hot take. I do think they're going to get in. I don't know if it's going to be at the expense of Seattle, Winnipeg, Minnesota. I don't know who it's going to end up being that comes out for them. Yeah. But I honestly do think Calgary's going to get in, man. Like I will not believe. I cannot believe Calgary is not going to make the playoffs at this point. Like I won't accept it until it actually happens. So, I just every time I look at their roster, I'm like, this is so much better than what they're producing.
Yeah.
And then
Huberdeau's the center of that for sure. Just quickly, guys, make sure if you haven't yet, hit the like button, follow NHL Lucas on Twitter, subscribe to the channel. Lucas, just quickly as we're wrapping up here, let's just call it how it is. Yes or no? Is Jacob Chychrun getting traded before the deadline?
We've waited this long, Johnny, and we will wait some more. Yeah. I say he doesn't get dealt. I say this continues into the freaking offseason, man. We're going to be talking about this at the draft, aren't we?
Yeah, I want to say yes. I'm with you. Honestly, This is such a bullshit situation. I have a feeling that it's going to be bullshit some more. It's such a disaster. I honestly don't know why Arizona feels any comfort with this situation. They better not, because it's a complete just.
It's bad. It looks really bad. And overall, man, like just we got to wait for the deadline to pass for me to really evaluate Arizona and where they're at in whatever they're trying to build there right now. But, you know, if they do end up moving Chychrun and Schmaltz and Vejmelka, you know, you could argue those are their three best players at forward, defense, and goal. I mean, you can obviously say Keller as well, but let's just, for the sake of it, say those are their best guys. I mean, they move those three guys out. Like, where are we at for the Coyotes? You know, it's really grim there right now. And they got to get some upward momentum going before they move rinks. Like, they can't be this bad when they have the new rink in Tempe. So, yeah, it's definitely one we'll have to focus on when the deadline passes. And I hope for Chychrun's sake and for all content creators' sake that he is dealt.
Yeah, I hope so too. Honestly, it will, regardless of what people want to say, if the Patrick Kane trade gets held into later in the week, combined with if a Chychrun trade and like one other significant trade can happen on Friday, so like a Schmaltz or like an Ekholm. So let's just wrap it up with this, because we talked to Mark Spector. We had Edmonton talk. What trade do you want the Oilers to make, Lucas? On behalf of the Oilers, I've talked about it a little bit. Is it like a rental for an Edmondson or a rental for a Gauchis Bear? I mean, there's been so many conflicting reports. We talked about Mark talked about it with Mark, is like, gosh, spare the puck moving guy. Maybe the top players like that fit better, but an Edmondson, a Gavrikov, an Ekholm, that's the type you want in the playoffs against. I mean, hey, if you're Edmonton playing against Vegas, or if you're in Edmonton playing against a Colorado, you want Ekholm against those guys rather than a Gostisbehere. Gostisbehere will get exposed in those matchups.
Well, Ekholm is the best guy on the market, no doubt.
$6.25 million cap it. Still a couple more years. What are you thinking on that?
I think they need to retain a little bit, but I mean, even just to make the money work, they're going to have to retain, right?
Puljujarvi would go the other way. By the way, to add to this chat, as we record Monday night, it seems like Puljujarvi is scratched tonight.
Yeah, Puljujarvi, this is a saga now. Nothing's happening.
Trade waivers.
Make the fucking trade.
But Ekholm overall is the best D out of all the guys we just named, like, and the best fit for Edmonton in my mind. But I do agree with Mark Spector in the fact that I like the puck movers more than just the more defensive guy like a Gavrikov. I like Gostisbehere's fit. I like I'm a big Nick Jensen guy. Like, I would think Nick Jensen would fit well. I'd have to actually look up
apparently to me, I don't know. I don't know if Edmonton, if they're comfortable with that right side of Barry, Bouchard, CC, then they're probably acquiring a left shot guy, which maybe takes them out of a Nick Jensen type. I mean, I love the Ekholm fit. Don't get me wrong. It's just a money thing. So if Nashville can retain, I'll put this out there. If Nashville can retain $1.5 million on that, you put Puljujarvi in there, and then you're probably, I mean, I guess it's Foegele in there just for money purposes. Like, I don't think they're moving a Barry in that deal. So Foegele and Puljujarvi, that would be $5 million. So yeah, I mean, they can make it work if Ekholm is retained by at least $1 million or $1.5 million, and then Foegele and Puljujarvi going the other way. They can make that deal work, but it's just yeah, you know what, Lucas? I'd say this: Nurse, Ekholm, CC, Barry is not a bad top four if you're Edmonton and you want a balance of puck moving with defense structure.
No, it's not bad. I think their home run would be no, their home run is to get a defenseman. And it's going to depend if they can get some retention and have the assets to get an Ekholm, or if they just want to play it more safe and get a Carson Soucy. Like, I didn't mind Carson Soucy either if the Leafs were going to add him instead of McCabe. I know the cost probably would have been a little bit lower because he's a UFA, but like, he's a decent player too.
Yeah, so Foegele, I just read the comment. Foegele has played well lately for Edmonton, so I mean, if it's Yamamoto going in that trade because his fit's been rough, then maybe. I will also add to that, Edmonton will be dummy category if they trade a first for Mr. Rental Edmondson. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, that's insane.
Do not trade a first for Edmondson.
John, it's almost going to be, for me, I think as we get closer to the deadline, like if I had to guess, just the amount of defensemen's names we've said today, as we get closer to the deadline, I think the prices have to come down, because
100%.
when there's this many defensemen, man, like if Montreal's saying, hey, we want a first for Edmondson, yeah, forget it. I'll go get Carson Soucy, or I'll go get Shane Gostisbehere or Nick Jensen, or like the list just goes on.
We'll get Luke Schenn for a third round pick.
Luke Schenn, like, and we're not saying all these guys are the same caliber player, but like these prices that we're seeing so far, I think have been for the big fish that were like coveted by multiple teams, right?
Well, Lucas, man, if it's a difference of trading a first and third for Gavrikov or a third for Luke Schenn, are we freaking kidding me? Like, that shouldn't even be a discussion. It shouldn't be, like, the fact that Gavrikov was maybe going to get that is laughable, and Columbus was on the brink of pulling a finesse job again, Lucas. They were going to do it again. If not for Washington making Orlov available, Boston was literally going to sauce a first and another draft pick for a Gavrikov. That was going to happen.
Jeez, man. Dude, it's starting to look like I saw a meme on Twitter, and funny enough, I'm actually reading Jeremiah's comment, and it matches bang on with that. It works on NHL 23. Like the Tanner Jeannot trade, where you just keep adding picks. Like the way picks are being thrown for guys right now, we're starting to get closer to the NBA style of it. And I for the game's perspective, like for the overall benefit of the game, I like it. I love movement at this time of year.
Yeah.
It creates conversation like what we're having now. It gets people excited about, the playoffs. So yeah, to start putting a bow on this thing, man, like I'm excited for this week. I think there's going to be a lot more movement, and it's sick to see like this many trades. Obviously we want to see some big ones on Friday, and even if we don't, I know we're going to see lots of movement. So let's keep that going.
Yeah, that's the part where I really disagree with a lot of people just going, oh, this deadline's going to be dead. The deadline day is going to be dead.
Yep.
There's a difference between dead and a difference between big moves, like big players not being moved around. Like, I truly think in terms of activity, what you just said, it's going to be active, guys. Like, don't get it twisted. There's so many teams that have literally done nothing. What has Arizona done? What has Anaheim done? Those are the two of the biggest sellers in the market right now. Yeah. San Jose's got a bunch of assets still to trade. Freaking, look at even the bottom of the Eastern Conference. Like, Montreal, outside of trading Dadonov, they've done nothing. Like, Philly, they've done nothing. Columbus, we're still waiting, right? So I just
these guys are waiting, man.
In terms of activity, it's not going to be lacking in terms of activity. So it just depends on what you call a big trade. There's going to be moves. So yeah, outside of that, was there anything else that we wanted to cover in terms of like big conversation pieces yeah, I don't know. I think
that's
we
it
covered
for now,
it.
man.
I truly think we covered it.
I think we covered it, most of it, and we're going to be obviously on Friday and just, rip through stories as they come, rip through trades as they come. It's going to be good. So make sure you tune into us on Friday all day here on YouTube.
Let's do a rushed. I'm excited. Let's do a rushed mailbag right now. 5 questions on the board in the chat, guys. We're just gonna rip through 5 quick questions. So drop it in the chat as we do a live. We'll rip through it, give our thoughts, give our quick takes, and then we're out for this podcast episode. As I said, guys, we're on our way to 30 episodes. It's been unreal. We're getting some great guests coming up. I'm not going to talk about the recent guest again, but there's a couple big episodes. I would say I might hold off on a couple guests coming after the trade deadline just because we want to focus more on those guests versus like trade talk. But this next week we'll try to bring a couple guests on the stream as well. But Lucas, low key, I know I told you I was going to do it, but low key I'm already stringing together some fan representatives. So if a quick trade happens, quick call in for a minute. What are your thoughts? All right, see you later, kind of thing.
Sweet. Yeah.
But we appreciate those people. And shout out to Jeremiah for sure. Oh shit. Freaking blacked out there. There you go. We're back. Questions. Let's see. Where do okay, so if Chychrun does get traded now or in the offseason, has your fit changed? Is it still is St. Louis still in that mix? Is LA still in that mix, or do you got another team?
I think the Blues actually are more so in that mix now than ever. With the fact that they were rumored in on Timo Meier and moving those picks because they don't want to do this long rebuild. I think the Blues is actually a really good one. So yeah, I think that's still one of the best fits for me. St. Louis.
I like that. I would still say I still think Ottawa's going to be sniffing. I still think Ottawa will be sniffing. I think they want a right shot guy, but I think they're going to still be sniffing. What is your opinion from David C? What is your opinion on people saying that picks are overrated? So late first round picks, do you think they should be valued more? Or is it depending on team scouting staff? For a team like Toronto, for example, are these first round picks, as I've been kind of labeling them, are they overrated?
I think they're absolutely overrated. I think it was a matter of time before we started seeing crazy deals like this with 4, 5, 6 picks in them. Like
NBA vibe.
Yeah, NBA vibe. I love it. I love seeing it because at the end of the day, they are a bit of magic box and you don't know what you're going to get from them. Having said that, though, pushing back on my own points, they have value. There's no doubt they still have lots of value around the league, whether they turn into a significant NHL player or not. GMs do value these. So different than the NBA, they hold more value as we've seen. And it's going to be interesting to see if that trend shifts more towards NBA style as the years go by. But overall, they're overrated.
I think for some teams, they're definitely overrated. I think for a team like Toronto that's been plucking some underrated pieces in the last couple of years. But yeah, a team like Tampa that's been winning that they sometimes just don't care about that. I think it's definitely overrated. Just quickly, Vancouver, if I could throw Lucas, an over under 2.5 in terms of players that the Canucks will trade from now to the deadline. Over under 2.5. I think that's fair. They just traded Riley Stillman. Are we going over under on that? And what are the likeliness of Demko being traded from Winstow in the chat?
I'm taking the over. Because I think Schen's going to get dealt for sure. And then I have Besser. I think he's going to get dealt, man. I think there's going to be teams circling it on him. And Who knows? I think there will be a
one
third.
of their depth pieces, I guess.
I think there will be a third guy, yeah. But Demko to me being dealt before the deadline seems very, very unlikely. I just don't know why you would want to do that if you're Vancouver.
Yeah, I mean the trio of like a Buffalo, Pittsburgh, or LA would have to throw a haul at Vancouver.
It's got to be a haul, like you talked about with Jeannot, with Orlov. These
there's
teams
no
that
panic to trade.
There's no panic. Yeah, you have control. You have control, or in those scenarios, Washington was still in the playoff hunt. Like when there's no pressure, you need to have your socks blown off to deal them. So I can't see Demko getting dealt. I just can't.
Yeah, there were some Tyler Myers rumors, but I would just say if that's a possibility and unless Vancouver's willing to retain $3 million at the very least and maybe even get a third team involved, I think that's maybe a draft move or offseason. But last question here. Let's see. I guess Blade, to finish it off, we started with Leafs chat. Let's just end it with Leafs chat here. Lucas, right now, if the Leafs made no more moves, so based on what they've done, based on what we know, do you want another move? And I'll give my opinion right after you. Do you want another move, or are you content with where it's at right now going into the playoffs, Tampa Bay Game 1?
I'm going to say that we get greedy and we ask for more and more moves all the time, as fans do. I'm content. Overall, I'm content. Now, would I like to see one more move? I would, but overall, if they do nothing, and they're going to have to do something to make the money work, but if they do nothing to add to this roster, dude, I'm pretty happy with it. Like overall, I mean, the McCabe, if they just did McCabe and Lafferty, I would have said that was too little. But that combined with O'Reilly and Achari, dude, this is a good deadline for the Leafs overall so far. And if this is it, this is a good deadline. What about you?
Yeah, I think so. I don't love the fact that they've put themselves in this position in terms of Dubas keeps going, oh, we didn't take from our roster. We didn't take from our roster. We didn't take from our roster. Well, Dubas, you should have took from the roster because Kerfoot should have been going back the other way in one of these deals. So maybe I'm a little too hard on Dubas because he's done, to me, and this is where Lucas, I have a tough time sometimes separating it like Toronto from just evaluating what's up here. Evaluating what's up here, if Dubas was the general manager of the Tampa Bay Lightning and he made these two moves, I'm probably raving. Like, I'm probably just absolutely these are amazing moves. These are great moves. These are sweet. But unfortunately, fans, I have this dark cloud. I have this freaking negativity and I hate that. I hate it. But I will say, I don't like the position they've put themselves in because now they're going to have to give an asset incentive for another team to take a contract, likely, unless Matt Murray just stays on LTIR, which I guess you never know. There's a possibility of that. I'll just say that to me, I will go on the next video or live stream or podcast or whatever. I will be freaking celebrating if they can make one more move. And maybe that's premature because we're still going to see what happens in the first round versus Tampa. But I just think they've got to make one more move of a guy. Like, I'll look at that third line and be like, wow, that third line outmatches Tampa's third line. And that's the scenario of, okay, if you have Nyes in the picture and you have O'Reilly, get one more guy. Just freaking, if the Leafs could get an Adam Henrique or a Scott Lawton or one of those names in the middle six, then I'm done. Then I'm not even like, if the Leafs lose in the first round, Dubas did everything he could. If he could go for that one more piece in the middle six, there's no more conversation to be had, Lucas. Dubas did everything he possibly could, and then I'm freaking quiet. You're not catching me saying fire Dubas if he makes that one more move. Right now, I'm still on the edge. I'm like, is it enough, man? Like, Dubas is still riding on freaking Pierre Engvall on the third line. So I truly can't put no blame on Dubas if they lose in the first round. But if he makes that one more move where it's an upgrade over Engvall and Engvall's not on that third line, then I'm going, there's no blame on Dubas. It's the players. It's 100% the players.
I guess why I don't feel that as much, Johnny, is I've been thinking about it the last few days, and it's like when you have Matthews, Marner, Tavares, Nylander, I mean, dude, these guys have to go steal a series. Without it just being all about them, we need two of those guys to be the two best players in the series. It's got to happen.
Yeah.
It's got to happen. We see them on a nightly basis do amazing things. Last night in Seattle, they were buzzing. Like, Matthews and Marner have got to just take this series by the scruff of the neck and win 2 games on their own. Like, that's what we need more than anything. Totally hear you on adding one more piece. And if they do add one more piece, I hope it's a winger that can slide up with Tavares and Nylander, which pushes O'Reilly down. But yeah, I think one more piece would be the gold mine. And like you said, then at that point, you can't be faulting Kyle Dubas.
Yeah.
But overall, I give them, if I'm grading them, because of the capital they have to trade out to get these assets too, like factoring all that in,
Yeah.
I'm giving them a B plus. I'm giving them a B plus. It's a B plus A minus. It's right around that for the trade deadline so far.
So yeah, I think we're differing in opinion a little bit, but I would say this is like, to me, I'm the same with grading it.
Yeah.
Like I think maybe our expectations are a little bit different, but I think in terms of grading, I'm there. The only other thing I'd say, Lucas, and I have to say this because you just talked about the top players. If Mitch Marner, I mean, we saw it in Tampa Bay, and this is where it drives me nuts because it goes back to when he was drafted. It goes back to 2017. It goes back to 2018 for the Caps. I loved Mitch Marner. And I'm saying loved because I've gone through a patch here where it's so frustrating to see a guy so skilled and to me, one of the best playmakers and just the smarts on the guy is just unlimited in some areas. It's just, that's a guy that really I just want to see explode. He has to. We saw it last year against Tampa a little bit. Obviously, that, like, to me, Mitch Marner's a guy that we'll be talking about, like, in the conference finals if they get there one day and be like, wow, that guy was obviously Matthews is Matthews. Don't get me wrong. Nylander's been unreal. But I just feel like Marner, to me, is that game breaker in so many different ways where it's like you're in a tough spot. Sure, Matthews end-to-end for a goal, or Nylander individually in overtime against Minnesota. But I just feel like Marner's that guy that can unlock a different breed. And, hey, everyone listening right now, I promise to you, if Mitch Marner shows what he did last year against Tampa and more, and the Leafs get past the first round, I will make a formal apology and own everything negative I've ever said about Mitch Marner. Boom.
I'll hop on that too.
So that's the guy for me that I really hope can explode because, yeah, I mean, he what he's doing right now is just unbelievable, Lucas. Some of these plays he's making, like, I mean, the fact that, setting up Ryan O'Reilly and just like that's the stuff Marner can do. Like, take Marner off the lineup. Is O'Reilly scoring those goals?
No, absolutely not.
Right? I mean, that was all Marner. So, O'Reilly had the finish there, but Mitch Marner. So, anyways, on the way out, thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it. Our meeting's about to end here. You got to maybe invest in that Zoom premium, we'll see. But anything else, Lucas, you wanted to add on the way out here?
No, I'm ready to go for deadline day, buddy. I mean, we're it's Monday right now. We're start of the week. Can't wait for Friday, as always. But even more excited that it's deadline day, and we'll be on stream for the whole day, buddy. I'm ready for it.
Yeah, guys, this Friday, March 3rd. Lucas, over there, man, what's cooking for dinner? You got some dinner coming up or what? You going for dinner?
It's Taco Monday, buddy.
Taco Monday? We love that. Yeah, so, yeah, my girl's getting some studying done. So if Lucas is hopping off, I'll probably do a quick 2-minute wrap here but outside of that, guys, from Lucas and myself, the podcast has been great. We're glad to mix in some lives, and yeah, we will chat soon. Episode, I guess we'll put this on Spotify and Apple. So if you guys want to listen after on Spotify or Apple, Hot Take Hockey Podcast, I think it's episode 27, as we said. So,
27.
All right, to everyone that was listening on Spotify, Apple, we got to do a little piece. Have a great one. See you on NHL Trade Deadline Day, March 3rd. Have a good one. Peace. There we go. All right, shouts to Lucas. Big shouts to Lucas. That's huge. Let's just pull this up here for a sec. End this meeting.
Record.
Shouts to Lucas. Guys, can we get just Lucas hype in the chat? Everyone in the chat right now, just get Lucas buzzing in the chat. So this is his Twitter. NHL Lucas. Make sure you guys go shoot him a follow. You just type that into Twitter and you'll find him. NHL Lucas. Let's see. Let's see here. There we go. You got the camera back. We're buzzing. All right, huge. Lucas hype in the chat. All right, guys, I'll stay here for another couple minutes because I'm gonna go get some food as well. That's awesome. Let's see. So yeah, let's read some comments here. Let's pull up. Any other news that popped up here? I don't know if I missed anything. I hope I didn't. But I guess most people had, was it lagging? I guess it was lagging. Was it lagging? I guess it was lagging. All right, any other questions, guys? Can we get 3 more likes for 100 before I head out? Any game streams, John, this week? I know they are late games. I think I'm going to stream Wednesday night. What time's that game at? 8 o'clock? Yeah, I'll be doing that. It's not that late. 8 o'clock's chill. So I'll be streaming for Leafs Oilers Wednesday night, guys. Okay. So I'll do Leafs Oilers Wednesday night. Okay. So yeah, this is what it is. So I'll be streaming Leafs Oilers Wednesday night. Thursday night. Blade, what are you talking about, yo? Begging, buddy. How are you catching me beg? Saying we should get to 100 likes because it's a nice goal to reach. It helps the stream reach some more people. Buddy, clearly you've never been begged for. Must suck to suck, because that ain't begging, buddy. Learn what begging is. You don't got to do shit. No one asked you for a like. I'm asking for the community to come together for a like, so you're good. But yeah, guys, Thursday night I'll probably do a pre-NHL trade deadline live stream. Like a little, what did I call it last time? I guess the trade deadline eve. Hey, we'll do a little trade deadline eve live stream Thursday night. And then as I said, on Friday, I'll be live all day. Yeah, thank you, Sports Beard. Yeah, hey, likes are helpful for the stream. There ain't no begging. If people want to help the stream, they can help the stream. It's like Christmas Eve, Jeremiah. It's like Christmas Eve. But honestly, as I said, I truly think Friday, I'm saying minimum 10 trades. I'd be disappointed. At that point, I would be disappointed if it's less than 10. Yo, Reed in the chat. Huge shouts to Reed, man. What a beauty. Early score prediction for Wednesday. You know what? I have a hot take. I feel like the Oilers could give well, I might look like a dummy after this, but I feel like the Oilers could give the Bruins a run for their money tonight at home, and the Oilers are coming off a loss against Columbus. So in that case, I mean, Skinner's starting tonight. Jack Campbell could maybe get some revenge on the Leafs. So Leafs are coming off a dub, couple days. The boys are going to a Springsteen concert tonight, so maybe they're out of touch a little bit. So my hot take would be Oilers in overtime on Wednesday. Anyways, guys, always great to see you guys in the chat. There's a lot of people showing love. Some people negativity, but mostly love. Appreciate you guys listening to the banter with Lucas. Honestly, always good chats on the pod with him. Yeah, I just wanted to end it for anyone that was like maybe... I didn't want to feel like anyone was getting neglected. I feel like when Lucas and I get into our chats, we're pretty focused on the hockey banter. So Jack Connors, big shout out to you. If you have any, if you guys want to drop a comment, I just want to shout out your name that you've been chilling in the chat, and I appreciate you guys. I hope to see you guys in the other streams throughout the week. But Rick, shout out. Blade, are you chilling now or what? You still got your shit kind of tied up? If Blade's chilling, I'm chilling, you know? Rick, what's up, buddy? Crazy dog. Yeah, guys. So I'll edit this shit together. I'll send Lucas the audio file. We'll get it on Spotify, Apple if you guys want to listen to our other chats. But yeah, I'll drop some videos throughout the week. You're chilling? All right, that's good. I'm chilling too. All right, Avi, have a good one, buddy. Fred, have a good night. Coast to coast, have a good night. I'll see you guys. Thank you. Hey, if you got a friend that's into hockey, man, I'm always shooting the promo. Don't be forgetting Hot Take Hockey, eh? Also, I just want to end this live stream by saying the Morgan Rielly disrespect continues to get out of hand. And unfortunately for Leaf fans that live in Leaf land, they can't appreciate a good offensive defenseman and understand that not every defenseman you got is going to be the most stud defensively. So, role players, everyone fits a mold. Every cup team that I've seen in recent memory has some kind of offensive defenseman. Hey, even when Pittsburgh didn't have Letang, Justin Schultz as that offensive guy stepped up big. I mean, go down the list. There's always going to be that stud offensive guy that's not the most defensively defensive. I mean, John Carlson, Pittsburgh was always Letang. I mean, I've seen Pens fans over the years get so frustrated with Letang. But Jack, that's a shit take. That's a shit take, Jack. But we appreciate you anyways. Anyways, guys, lots of love. Have a great night. We'll chat soon. Look out for the videos throughout the week. And as I said, I'll be live Wednesday night, and I'll be live Thursday night, and I'll be live all day Friday. All right? Keep those notifications on. We'll chat soon. Have a great night. Look out for the podcast.